Imagine this. You're driving down the road, your music is up, and the windows are down. Everything is perfect and at peace, until suddenly, out of nowhere, a random driver swerves into your lane and bashes your car. That driver was looking down at their phone. In those mere seconds, lives can be changed drastically. Now, you may be thinking, I already know that texting and driving is dangerous, but everybody knows and people still do it. Maybe you do it, or maybe someone that you love does it. The consequences don't happen to random people. They happen to family members, friends, classmates, or even coworkers. And that's why I encourage you to listen to my speech, because what I'm about to share could save a life. Now, I myself am a witness and have seen the consequences that can result from other people texting and driving, and I'm sure many of you have been as well. I've also been in the car with other drivers and had a few close calls, and I can say that those experiences were very emotionally traumatic for both of us, even days after the incident. Additionally, I have done thorough research on real-life examples, facts, and statistics to fully grasp and understand the topic at hand. Now, texting and driving is a very dangerous habit that many people do. Some overlook it or take it very lightly. It can lead to serious consequences, and you put not only your life at risk, but others as well. However, understanding everything completely that comes with doing that and helping to spread awareness will make the roads safer for everybody. Firstly, I'm going to dive into the issue with texting and driving, which would be how you're putting everybody else's life at risk on top of your own, and the dangers of doing that. Secondly, I'll talk about the solutions and alternatives so accidents can be avoided or prevented, so you can put as many safety layers between you and your phone while you're behind the wheel. And lastly, I will discuss the consequences that occur from texting and driving while you're behind the wheel. This can include criminal charges, serious accidents, injuries, emotional trauma, obviously, all of the above. Really. Unfortunately, this is the reality that we face, and people still do it. They are aware of it, yet they still want to change the song while they're driving down the road, or glance at their screen, check a notification, or respond to a message. And this is where the main issue is. It's very risky, and it's a dangerous habit. Like I stated earlier, many people just take it lightly and don't really care until it happens to you. Unfortunately, we can't make everybody experience it, and that wouldn't be a great way to go about it. But the most we can do right now is just helping people to understand and raise awareness. And again, the consequences are devastating. The website Distracted Driving, written by the CDC and dated April 30th, 2024, states that 9 people die in the US every single day. Now, if you do the math, 9 times 365 would be a total of 3,285 deaths per year. That's a statistic from 2019, and my first visual aid here backs that up. As you can see on this chart is all of the years from 2010 to 2019, the death rate from crashes involving distracted drivers each year. If you take a look at 2019, it says 3,142, pretty close to the number I stated earlier. And additionally, the CDC states that year in 2019, over 424,000 people were injured from texting and driving crashes. Another website titled Texting and Driving Statistics 2024, written by Ashlyn Brooks and dated 2024, states that texting and driving increases your chances of crashing by 23%. And on top of it, they interviewed people, just random people who drove, and 38% of those drivers reported that they still texted and drove, even understanding the risks that they were taking and the consequences that could occur from it. Moving on, we know that the dangers and consequences are real, but we aren't completely powerless. There's various simple and realistic steps that we can take to make the roads safer. it's not necessarily the phones that are the issue, it's us and our choices as people that we make while we're driving to be on them or not. Solutions for this would be, before you even start driving, keep your phone out of reach. Put it somewhere where you can't see it, or turn it off, out of sight, out of mind, that kind of thing. Or you can turn your phone on silent, and another option would be do not disturb. They're very similar, only a slight few differences. And if you have passengers in your car, then designate a passenger to respond to your calls or your texts. If you don't, and it really comes down to it, then you can download apps that block your calls or your texts while you're driving down the road. Another alternative would be speech to text, which is a feature many phones have these days, where you can talk to your phone and it will text somebody that. Or if you have an iPhone, you could use Siri, and I'm sure many Androids have, the Google thing that you can use too. That's a lot safer than physically being on your phone. The website titled Distracted Driving, again by the CDC, dated April 30th of 2024, encourages drivers to use phone and app settings to block your calls and texts. On top of that, they encourage people to designate a passenger to respond to your calls and your texts. And then another website, the NHTSA Distracted Driving campaign, written by Matthew Lineberg and dated May 19th of 2019, states that they urge drivers to minimize distractions by putting their phone on Do Not Disturb, or by downloading apps, again, to block your calls and texts, or keeping your phones away. In my next visual aid, this is a pie chart that shows a study done by the Zebra, and it's interviewing people who think texting and driving, like which one is more dangerous, texting and driving or drinking and driving. As you can see, a lot of them say that they're both equally dangerous, which is a good statistic. However, 20% of people still think that drinking and driving is more dangerous. I believe they're both equally dangerous, and we need to make that 9% lower. We need to make it either they need to think that they're both equally dangerous, or they need to think that texting and driving is more dangerous, because they shouldn't be brushing it off like something, something that's not that bad. And this shows that we just need to spread awareness for everybody. There were no certain demographics on this pie chart done, so it just shows that we need to spread awareness to everybody, regardless of what race, age, gender, religion, etc. they are. Continuing on, so these slight changes and adjustments that we can make in our everyday habits for driving are getting us one step closer to having safer roads. But why does that matter? Let's take a look at some real life examples, statistics, and facts. So when you're texting and driving, you put not only yourself, but everybody else in danger, even innocent people who weren't even involved in the situation at all. It can include emotional trauma. The consequences include emotional trauma, criminal charges, injuries, accidents, fatalities, everything that I've stated so far. And the website, titled Put the Phone Away or Pay, again written by Matthew Lineberg in 2019, states that in 2023, 3,275 people were killed, 325,000 were injured in crashes involving a distracted driver. And the other website, titled Texting and Driving Statistics 2024, written by Ashlyn Brooks in 2024, states that in 2022, 681 passengers, 498 pedestrians, and 87 cyclists were killed. Additionally, they state that the highest rate of drivers causing these accidents that were texting on their phone was 14% for ages 15 through 34, and 4% for ages 75 plus. And that leads me into my next visual aid. As you can see, there's a chart up here of all the different ages and the percent of the drivers that use their phone while driving. Do you see any of those percentages at zero? No. That's because all ages are capable of causing an accident, and all ages are texting and driving on their phone. Obviously, there's some numbers in younger people that are higher, and in older people, numbers that are lower, but they never go down to zero, and that's because everybody of all ages, you can't pin it to a certain age, there's no excuses, everybody is capable of ending their life this way. So the risks are real and the facts are undeniable and the consequences are definitely devastating, but the power is in our hands to make the change in our everyday habits. Now is the time for change, and I think the next step would be to take action. Taking action would be keeping your phone away. Many of the solutions that I stated earlier, keep your phone away, put it in Do Not Disturb, designate a passenger, use speech to text, Siri. Anything is better than actually physically being on it and allowing yourself to be both mentally and physically distracted by it while you're driving. And then texting and driving is a very life-threatening habit. Again, many people overlook it, take it very lightly, but you're putting so many different people at risk, and you don't even know them, and you don't realize how much damage you could do to somebody's life when you choose to make the mistake of texting and driving. And the consequences are very real, and the damage is very serious. But if we all can understand it a little more and take steps to make the roads safer, then everybody else will be safer too. So to review my points, my first one was the dangers of texting and driving, how you risk your life, other people's lives, you're putting everybody else in danger. My second one was about the solutions and steps that we can take to put as many safety layers between us and our phones. And then lastly were my consequences that can occur from texting and driving. That includes serious accidents, fatalities, emotional trauma, any of that. And then I challenge you, each one of you, to commit to putting your phone down before you start driving, when you get behind the wheel. Put it in Do Not Disturb, turn it off, keep it out of reach. Again, the out of sight, out of mind. Designate somebody, anything, because each of those little steps, each of those changes that you choose to make in your everyday habits, even though they're very small, like adjustments, they eventually will all add up to make a big wave of change and affect everybody in a positive way instead of a negative way. And your decision to drive free of distractions could maybe one day just save a life.